Okay, here. So the microphone is set at the right level. Hand sanitizer if you need that. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Taylor Ayers, and today I'm here to present an informative speech about no farms, no food. So this means if we did not have farmers, there would be no food, and people and animals would die of starvation. To start off with, I would like to show a video to you about 8 things farmers want you to know about farming.
Hey everyone, welcome to No Ideas Media. I'm Nick Sykes, and here are 8 things that farmers wished you knew about farming. Number 1, behind the factory farmers of industrial ag are actually real people. 99% of farms are family owned by people who care. Regardless of size or label, the soil is their livelihood, and farmers do everything they're able to do to nurture and protect the soil. Less than 2% of the population farms. They produce the food for 100% of the people. Agriculture is an industrial scale business, and farmers have billions of mouths to feed, and they know exactly what they're doing. Respect their knowledge because it keeps you fed. Number 2, farmers do more with less. Livestock have better care than ever before thanks to modern research and technology, and less chemicals and medicine are being used than in decades past. Erosion has been reduced by over 50% since the 1980s, and farmers today are able to produce more with fewer resources, using less space and less water, all while feeding more people than ever before. Technology has improved every aspect of our lives, and agriculture is no exception. Number 3, the environment and proper stewardship not only affect their profits, it's their livelihood and family history as well. For many farmers, the land they farm is the land they worked with their grandparents on, and it has just as much sentimental value as any other family heirloom. It's where they raise their children. And the better they take care of the soil, the better it takes care of them. It's a reciprocal relationship. Farmers understand this, and they do the best they can to protect their land. And it'll never be perfect, but acknowledge it's still pretty darn good. I mean, did your kids eat today? Thank a farmer. Number 4, Monsanto isn't even really a chemical company anymore, and they have no control over farmers whatsoever. The seed market is really competitive, so farmers have hundreds of seed companies to choose from. No one forces a farmer to plant anything. It's always their choice. Monsanto used to be a chemical company exclusively. Now they focus mostly on seeds, some of which are even off patent. Number 5, GMOs. They do great things for farmers and for the environment. Thanks to GMOs, and everything we eat is arguably one, by the way, farmers can produce more crop on less land. Engineered seed allows farmers to reduce or flat out eliminate insecticide sprays. It allows for safer chemicals, better protection from crop diseases, better tolerance of weather and climate, fortification with more nutrients, and not to mention the fact that GMO allows farmers to utilize no-till farming systems way more effectively because, again, preserving the soil is kind of the whole idea. And really, the list of benefits.
Okay, so I didn't have time to show the whole video. So the sixth one that farmers want you to know about is there are over 4,000 uses for corn. The seventh one was factory farming is a slang term that should be thrown on the manure pile. And then number 8, farmers are wonderful salt of the earth people that are intelligent. So the first thing that I would like to talk about is agriculture would be badly affected. The reasons it would be affected is because the loss of the land, no money, there would be no money in the agricultural business, and then there would be no food. Agriculture is a big part of the world today, and I think we would be lost without farmers. Coming from a farmer's daughter, I know what the agricultural industry is like. My dad is a chicken and cattle farmer. He grows 7-week-old chickens and to produce meat so we can have food. He works long, hard days to provide and feed America. The chicken business is huge right now, and I hope it stays that way. So the picture on the left is a picture of a soybean and corn mill. It got destroyed in 2020, last year, by a big storm, and this was in Iowa. And then the picture on the right is a picture of a cornfield that also got destroyed by a storm, but this was back in 2018, and this was also in Iowa as well. The second thing I would like to talk about is food loss. It would be hard to feed the human population without farmers growing crops. Farmers are the #1 priority for food. Farmers grow corn, cotton, fruit, nuts, rice, soybean and oil crops, sugar and sweeteners, vegetables, wheat, poultry products, beef products, dairy products, and more. So the top left picture is a picture of a soybean field. And then the picture at the top right is a picture of a cotton field. And then the picture on the bottom left is a picture of the inside of a chicken house. So as you can see, that picture right there, they have 3 rows of feed bins and then 3 rows of water lines. All chicken houses doesn't necessarily have 3 lines of each. Usually they have 2. It just kind of depends on how many chickens are in each house. And then the picture on the bottom right is a picture of a cornfield. The third thing that I would like to talk about is life would be harder for people without farmers. People would have to find or buy land on their own to produce their own crops. They would have to get their own supplies to make their own food. And people would have to take a huge responsibility to feed their families and themselves. The first picture is a picture of a man farming, plowing his own field or own garden, whatever. And then the bottom left picture is a picture of a family at the table. And then the other picture is just representing money because, like I said, people would have to purchase their own supplies or their own land to produce their own food. And then the last slide is actually a quote from Paul Harvey. It says, "God looked down on the earth he created and said, I need a caretaker for the world, and for this world I have made. And so God made a farmer." This is one of my favorite quotes, and this man, he's really one of my favorite people too. So thank you for listening to my presentation, and that's it.
Thank you, Taylor. Next, we will hear from William Powell. Leah, you need me to come back to you? Okay, well, you can take the stage at this time.
Hi everybody, my name is Leah Badum, and today for my informative speech, I will be presenting the top 8 greatest inventions in my opinion. So the first invention I decided to talk about was the wheels. They were first seen in the Paleolithic era when they discovered that heavy rounded object could be easier to move things around. And later on, they put a hole in it to create a stable surface to be able to roll things on it. The oldest wooden wheels have been discovered in Slovenia, and they date back to 3200 BC, and the Egyptians were the first to use the hooked wheels in 2000 BC. It was not until the 19th century that the pneumatic tire was invented. The pneumatic tire was invented by Robert William Thomson, and it led to today's tire. The next invention I've decided to talk about was the compass. The compass was created for navigation and orientation. It was first seen in China during the Han Dynasty between the 2nd century BC and the 1st century AD. At first, the compass was not used for navigation. It was used in divination, fortune telling, and geomancy, and also used to find precious gemstones. the earliest compasses were made of lodestone, which were like magnetic minerals, and they used to be hang on a rope, and they will like follow the magnetic sign of the earth, and it will like lead to some where they need to go. Later on, it was also called the South Pointing Fish because of its designs. It was a little fish placed on water, and it will like show the south or the north. Today's compasses are still made out of magnetized iron, and they are greatly improved over the centuries. Now on boats and ships, they are and there's no liquid because before they used to be floated on water or liquids to make it flat and easier to be directed. Now it's holds a horizontal position on a dry compass, and the main parts are a standard magnetic compass, which is placed in a 3-ring gimbal that keeps the compass always horizontal. So when the ship rocks, they don't have to worry about not being able to see where they're going. The third point I decided to choose was the gunpowder. The gunpowder was discovered in the 9th century CE by Chinese monks who were on the quest for elixir of life. The key ingredient of gunpowder is saltpeter, which had been used in many cultures for mitigation, but they also discovered that it was a good explosive when mixed with different components. It was very difficult for the gunpowder to ignite in a safe and proper way. It used to be very dangerous if not made well. They believed that the best recipe was 3 parts charcoal, 9 parts saltpeter, and 1 part sulfur, which was the better combination of chemicals at the time. But now it's believed to be, the ratio is believed to be 10, 15, and 75, which is now the modern formula that is used now. When Europeans mixed liquids to the mixture in the 14th century, they were able to make a paste, and it was like the first bombs. The fourth invention I decided to talk about was the printing press. The printing press was invented around 1436 and is believed to be invented by a German goldsmith, Johann Gutenberg. But it dates back to the 9th century in China. They were able to mass produce books and it would be like cheaper to mass produce books. The first book that he invented was his own Bible, which did not make any profit with it because it was so expensive. The next invention I decided to talk about was electricity. The first documentation of electricity dated back to 500 BC. In the Thales Hylatus, when they discovered static electricity, when fire was rubbing against amber stones, it will make like sparks. And they discovered that electricity was created by rubbing two things together. Until the 1600s, an English physician and physician William Gilbert published the first theory about electricity. And the next and William Boyle in the 1700 made a glass bowl with that glowed when it was worked with, and that was the beginning of like the neon lights. And in September 1882 was the first house to have electricity, and it was located in Appleton, Wisconsin. The next invention is the telephone. The word telephone comes from the Greek roots, which means far sound. Which was like many people tried to invent. It was the telephone is derived from the telegrams, which only could send one message at a time, and only Alexander Graham Bell was able to create an invention that could send multiple telegrams at one time. And the next one is vaccination. Chinese were the first one to create vaccination, which was not really vaccination. It was medical herbs that was able to, with time, eradicate smallpox. In 1796, Edward Jenner was able to create a compound that could eradicate cowpox. And in 1885, Louis Pasteur was able to create the vaccine for the rabies, and which also they work on, mainly scientists at the time work on children's diseases, just such as rubella, palms, and mussels. And the last invention I said talk about was the steam engines. It helped power the Industrial Revolution. It used to power large machines at a faster rate, and it was easier to work with. It worked with steam, and it was invented by James Watt. All those inventions are part of today's word, because some of them, they might be early representation of it, but they all led to help the world to get better. That's it.
Thank you, Leah. Next, we will hear from Jacob Barrett.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jacob Barrett, and today I'm going to talk to you about the life of Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant was many things. He was an all-star, Hall of Famer, Oscar winner, a mentor, a role model. But one of the most important things in his life is that he was a supportive father. So, Kobe's early life, he was born August 23rd, and his father played in the NBA when he was born. And shortly after he was born, his father, mother, they all moved over into Italy, where his father continued to play basketball. So all the way through middle school, Kobe stayed in Italy. He was fluent in Italian, and at the time when he was 12, he was playing against people that were in college over in Italy. And when they moved back to the U.S., he ended up playing at Lower Merion High School, which is in Pennsylvania, and led the team there to 4 state championships all 4 years, and broke the previous record that was set by Wilt Chamberlain for most points scored in the southeastern Pennsylvania district. So, the beginning of his illustrious NBA career, he was drafted 13th in the 1996 draft by the Charlotte Hornets, who shortly after drafting him traded him to the Lakers, where he wore the number 8, and his first couple seasons in the NBA, they were pretty low points compared to the rest of his career. His first season, he only played about 15 minutes a game and only scored about 8 points a game, and didn't really have anything going for him at the time. He won the dunk contest as a rookie, but one of the things that happened during his rookie season that helped shape Kobe was the last game they played that season was in the playoffs against the Utah Jazz, where in the final minutes of the fourth quarter, he airballed one of the shots that would have won the game, and they went into overtime. And then during that game, in the last minute of overtime, he ended up airballing his last 3 shots, and they ended up losing and being eliminated from the playoffs by 5 points. So when they went home, instead of seeing his family like most of the other players did, he went and found a local high school gym that would let him go in and shoot, and stayed until morning just practicing his jump shots, because he said he never wanted something like that to happen again. And he used that to build who he would become in the NBA. So Kobe switched to number 24 because when he was wearing number 8, he played with Shaquille O'Neal, and they won 3 championships, which was 2000, 2001, and 2002. And a lot of people said that he was like the second to Shaq, that without Shaq, he wouldn't have been able to win a single championship. And he wanted to change his number to act like a clean slate and show that without Shaq, he could still go on, lead a team, and win an NBA championship, which he ended up doing in 2009 and 2010. And Kobe played through many injuries in his career, whether it was fracturing bones in his hand, dislocating his fingers, tearing his rotator cuff, or rupturing his Achilles during a game. Every single time, he always found a way to bounce back and try to continue going, because he loved basketball and never wanted to stop playing. So Kobe played his last game in 2016, and it just so happened that his last game was playing the Jazz, who, after that rookie season, the team that helped him shape his work ethic for the rest of his career. He scored 60 points that night, and currently has the most points scored on a final game for many of the legends you might think of, like Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Allen Iverson. And one of the things that stood out is he had both his 8 and 24 jerseys retired by the Lakers. And right after he retired, leading up to his retirement, before the season started, he wrote a poem called Dear Basketball, which was his way of telling everyone he was going to retire, and that although mentally he was ready to keep competing, that he understood that his body was not prepared for it. That after all the injuries that he's gone through and all the strained or torn muscles, that he realized that it was time to step back. And after his retirement, that's when he never let up. He always tried to do something or find something to do that would better him as a person. So one of the things he did is he started a animation company called Granity Studio, which would end up animating his poem Dear Basketball that would win an Oscar. And he created a investment company that would try to help out as many small businesses in the area that he could. So Kobe, his daughter, and countless others lost their lives January 20th in 2020. And those passengers, so it was Kobe, his daughter Gianna, John Altobelli, his wife Carrie, and his daughter Alyssa, who they left behind a daughter and a son after the crash. Christina Mauser, who was at the time one of the coaches that was helping Kobe with the team. Sarah Chester and Peyton Chester, who were mother and daughter. And the pilot, Ara Zabayan, who many knew him, and one of his passions was flying, teaching people how to fly. And Kobe, he was Kobe's go-to no matter where it was, when he was going somewhere. He always went to him first because he knew he had a passion and drive for what he did, just like when he was in the NBA. So the Celebration of Life event that happened at the Staples Center, it was a gathering of many current and former NBA players, Kobe's family, friends, that all wanted to take the time to realize that although it was a sad time, that there were many things that could be learned from Kobe's life. And one of the messages that they had from that I wanted to share with y'all was that no matter what happens throughout every single day of your life, there's always something that you can improve on, and that every single day, it doesn't matter if it's no improvement, a little improvement, or a huge improvement, that as long as you're trying to improve, you're doing something right. And Kobe always wanted to take the time to share that although success doesn't show up immediately, it can show up in the long term. You just have to be ready to push through whatever you need to push through to get there. I would like to thank y'all for listening to my speech.
Thank you, Jacob. Our next presenter will be Gentry Brown.
it this way. My name is Gentry, and I am doing colorblindness and different types. A basic background on just like what colorblindness is. It's a defect in vision, and it makes it difficult for someone to perceive colors or completely or like different ways than what most people do. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about all of them. I'm going to talk about the main types because I did it'd be a little while. But the ones I'm going to be talking about today are, I cannot say some of these, so sorry about that. Protonomy, tritonomy, and the first one, the pro one, is basically a reduced sensitivity to red light. So the dermatology is sensitivity to green, and it's actually the most common one. And then the last one, tritonomy, is a reduced sensitivity to blue light, and it's actually the rarest one out of those three. And then monochromacy is basically the complete no color blindness, or like harder for you to perceive like distinguish shade colors. Now here are some pictures of what on the Pepsi one is what you got, like what normal people see, and what the other three would perceive it as, what they see the like normal one as. And so basically the pro one, the protonomy one is red, sensitivity red, and then that's the determinally one is colorblindness to like you can barely see green colors. And then the tritonomy one is your basically blue. Oh no, go back.
It's beautiful. Just like down there, Hey there, welcome to Life Noggin. I'm Blocko.
And I'm Sabrina from the YouTube channel Nerdy and Quirky.
And we're here to teach you a little bit about colorblindness. There is nothing I love more than seeing the sunset at the end of the day. But for some people, these sunsets might not be so spectacular.
See, in the retina of our eyes, we have light detecting cells called cones. These cones contain 3 different types of photopigments, which are sensitive to different wavelengths of visible light. And while the wavelengths detected by each cone tend to overlap, it is easy for us to categorize the cones as being red, green, or blue.
If you have normal color vision, your red, green, and blue cones are all working properly, and you'd be called a trichromat. However, some people are dichromats, meaning that they only have 2 types of cones instead of 3.
This typically affects about 2% of the male population, who are either missing their red or green cones. These people can't distinguish between red, orange, yellow, and green, which definitely makes those sunsets a lot less interesting.
A more common form of colorblindness is called anomalous trichromacy, which affects about 6% of males. And this is where the famous red-green colorblindness belongs. People with this have all three types of cones, but some of the wavelengths covered by the green or red cones are shifted.
And if the wavelengths from the green cones are shifted, you can think of the person as being green weak. It'll be hard for them to notice small differences between red and green, but it's not as severe as dichromacy.
And since the red and green pigment genes are located on the X chromosome, men are much more likely to have color blindness. After all, women have two X chromosomes, so both would have to be defective for them to be colorblind.
So if you are a man watching this, take a look at this picture. If you can see a 2 in the center, you probably have normal color vision. But if not, you may want to go to the eye doctor to get officially tested.
Contrary to popular belief, colorblindness doesn't mean that you see the world in shades of gray. That does happen sometimes, but it's much less common. Anyway, so tell me in the comments if you had to describe the color green to someone.
Okay, so in the video, they did talk about cones, which is basically a photocell receptor, and it retains basically the way like waves basically the way that your eyes will respond to light. It basically is like what determines like your wavelengths in like different ways, and then like that's how you perceive different colors. Like that's what gives you the ability to do that. And so basically, these pictures explain the science between those three main ones we've been talking about so far. And basically, the protein one is missing a longer wavelength, which basically is why the R cone is weak. So that's why they're red light sensitive. And for the deer tooth one, it's missing the middle one, which is why its gray cone is weak. And for the last one, it's missing the short wavelength, yeah, which makes it the B cone absent overall. So, this is a interesting story about last year, or beginning of last year, or late 2019. My dad had bought titanium straws, which contains all these different colors when you look at them. And everyone in my family was talking about all these colors and how they could see, like, when you shine light, the rainbow, like different rainbows on them. And I was the only one in the house who was like, what are y'all talking about? So I went about 18 years not knowing that I had a type of color blindness. And it turned out I was 10% monochromacy and partially deutant, which is basically I have struggle seeing what y'all could see is like two different shades of red. I cannot just distinguish those two colors like at all. And which is actually pretty rare for women to be colorblind, because the reason for that is like my mother carried the trait for it but didn't know about it. But when I got passed on to me because my dad had it. But I didn't know about it until like really later on in life, because I thought it was normal for me to be seeing that, obviously, which is kind of interesting. But worldwide, every 1 in 12 males are colorblind, and every 1 in 200 females are colorblind. So it's a pretty rare gene for a female to be colorblind. They don't really have a cure for this, like, at all. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of Enchroma glasses. They're pretty well known on TikTok if they watch the videos of them unboxing them, and people who are like fully colorblind can see colors because of this company. And you can actually get them ordered specifically to like for your colorblindness. So I thought that was pretty nice, but there's actually no cures for this. So, and basically these glasses scientifically, if like you can see in the picture, it allows like the wavelengths to be fixed out. That's why they can see it, the colors within them. That's all. Okay. Thank you for listening.
today's presenters. I enjoyed the presentations. When we return on Wednesday, we will hear from the members of the Group B, Ray Carr, Greg Cobb, Natalie Concepcion, and Justin Dees. And let's see, Mark Carbiner. Have a great day, everyone. Okay, so you can send that in an email to me?
Okay, and then, for the number of cells, I think I put C on my own.
Okay, we'll just put that in the email.
Okay, all right.
Okay, thank you.